Toss a coin to your Witcher, his pantry is empty, and so is his belly. Whoa. Toss a coin to your Witcher, so he can buy groceries. The Witcher Official Cookbook by Anita Sarna and Karolina Krupacka features 80 recipes inspired by Andrzej Sapkowski's fantastical world of The Witcher. Speaking of Andrzej Sapkowski, this cookbook's foreword is written by the man himself, showing that it has the author's 4-page stamp of approval. Now, when I think of The Witcher, I think of Geralt of Rivia, but this cookbook is actually told from the perspective of a brand new character, a cartographer from Kovir, with a penchant for culinary exploration across the continent. I find that this cookbook focuses less on The Witcher's characters and more so on the iconic locations of the vast world of The Witcher, which is great for me because exploring those regions is easily my favorite part of playing the games. The recipes are split into the different regions of the continent, and I really like how each region really has its own feel. And each region's unique flavor extends to the food photos as well. The photos from White Orchard are very quaint and simple. Skellige looks very cold and Nordic. Beauclair recipes look elegant and bougie. Kaer Morhen dishes are accompanied by weapons and books, both very common items in the Witcher's headquarters. I love that attention to detail, and the food themselves look warm, rustic, and delicious. In terms of the design, my one critique is that the recipe steps can get wall of texty. When I was cooking, I found myself having to dig deep into some of the paragraphs as a lot of steps are combined together and pretty thick in text compared to some other cookbooks. Kinda jarring when you're cooking on the fly, but the upside is that the steps are very detailed and provide very clear and accurate instructions. Since the franchise is so deeply rooted in Slavic and Polish mythology and culture, expect a lot of that influence in the types of food that you can find here. The Witcher author, the cookbook authors, and the Witcher devs are all from Poland, so I trust that the Polish recipes in here are well vetted for their authenticity and taste, with maybe a few suggestions and substitutions in the ingredients to make it more accessible for those without access to Polish ingredients. But of course, just like The Witcher, there are a lot of other influences from other European cultures and cuisines too. So let's try some of these out. I'm going to be making 3 dishes from the Witcher Cookbook to see what Geralt has been eating in his adventures. But first, I want to talk to you about this video sponsor, BetterHelp. Happy 2024, everyone. I hope you're excited for the new year. I just updated my whiteboard of all of the things that I want to do and all of the goals that I want to achieve this year. And you probably have your own list of goals and resolutions and challenges. And all of that can get really intimidating, really stressful, and super overwhelming. Therapy is a great way to find all of the good things you've already done and reflect back on all of the things that you've already achieved. Focusing on them and figuring out small little things that you can do so that you can tackle your goals in a more sustainable way, so you can keep your momentum going and see sustained growth and see real change in your life. If you've been thinking about starting therapy, then give BetterHelp a try. It's all online, super convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill a questionnaire and get matched with a licensed therapist. If for some reason you're not clicking with them, you can switch therapists at no additional cost. Give yourself what you need with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/MisoHungrie to get 10% off your first month. Okay, let's go.
When life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. But when the world gives you blood, you eat blood sausage. So I'll start my day with a bloody breakfast of fried Kaszanka with egg.
First thing we gotta do is get our shrooms ready. This recipe calls for 15 grams of dried mushrooms. I'm using porcini here. Rinse them under cold water and place them in a bowl covered with lukewarm water for about an hour. After that, transfer everything to a small saucepan and simmer for about 30 minutes. Then take the mushrooms out, reserving the liquid, and chop the mushrooms up roughly. Now in a skillet, heat up a tablespoon of vegetable oil over medium heat and fry up a small, thinly sliced white onion for about 5 minutes until lightly browned. Set the onions aside and then add back the mushrooms and add in 5 tablespoons of the mushroom water. Simmer for about 3 minutes and let the water evaporate. Then add in a teaspoon of unsalted butter, some salt, and cook for another 2 to 3 minutes. Then set that all aside along with the onions. In the same skillet, now we fry up 340 grams of Kaszanka sausage or Polish black pudding chopped up with the casings removed. Full disclosure, I think the blood sausage I'm using here is English style since there are no Polish stores by me selling Polish Kaszanka sausage, but I'm hoping they're similar enough. Over medium heat, cook the sausage while breaking it up with your spatula. Add in half a teaspoon of marjoram and continue to cook this for about 5 to 7 minutes until dark, stirring frequently. Once dark, add in the onion and mushroom mixture. season with salt and pepper, and fry everything up for an additional 3 minutes, then set aside. The last component is the fried egg. So in the same skillet over medium heat, melt a teaspoon of butter and crack in your egg. After about a couple of minutes, when the whites are set, season with some salt and pepper and turn the heat to low. Cover and let it simmer for another 1 to 2 minutes. Place the egg on your fried Kaszanka and have yourself a bloody good meal.
Aside from blood and wine, there's another thing that I come across often in my travels. Chicken sandwiches. You find them in the inns, you find them in random boxes, and it seems like every bandit I fight has a chicken sandwich on them. So let's go make some.
First, we gotta make the Kedwini Stout marinade. In a medium saucepan, add in a cup of Kedwini Stout. Of course, in our world, any stout or dark beer is fine. Add to that 2 teaspoons of spicy mustard, a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar. You can also use lemon juice instead if you'd like. 2 cloves of crushed garlic, a teaspoon of salt, and combine everything well. Set the heat to medium-high and cook for about 15 minutes until it's reduced to the consistency of honey. Take it off the heat and add in 1 tablespoon of floral honey. The most floral honey I found in my grocery store is wildflower honey, so that's what I'm using here. Stir it in, then let it cool to room temp. Now we prep the chicken. Take 2 boneless, skinless chicken breasts and slice them horizontally to divide them into 2 cutlets. Now we're going to cover the chicken with that Kedwini Stout marinade, and once well coated, pop it in the fridge for an hour. Then take it out and let it sit at room temp for 15 to 30 minutes so you don't cook it cold. While we wait for the chicken, let's go make some sauce by combining a 1/4 cup of mayo with 2 tablespoons of sour cream, a 1/4 cup of finely chopped flat leaf parsley, season with some salt and pepper, stir, and keep covered in the fridge until ready. In a skillet, warm up 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil over medium-high heat and add in the kale with some salt and pepper. Fry the kale for about 5 minutes until the edges get browned. Set the kale aside and warm another 2 tablespoons of oil in the same skillet. This time we're going to be frying up the marinated chicken. Fry for about a minute until brown, then flip to the other side and cook for another minute. Then spread on the remaining marinade from the container, add a bit of water and shake the chicken loose from the pan. Cover and lower the heat to medium-low and cook the chicken for 3 minutes, flipping the chicken twice. Check to see that your chicken is no longer pink inside, and when cooked, remove the cover and cook each side for about 1 to 2 minutes longer to get a nice sear, then remove the chicken and set aside. The last thing we're going to cook are the mushrooms. Melt a teaspoon of unsalted butter in the same skillet and fry up about 100 grams of sliced button mushrooms. Cook for about 2 minutes and season with salt and pepper, then remove and add to the chicken. Turn the heat back up to medium-high and toast a few slices of rustic bread, about 30 seconds each side. Spread some of the sauce, add the crispy kale as a base, then the mushrooms, then the chicken, top with some more sauce, then top with the bread, and now you have some chicken sandwiches with Kedwini Stout marinade, and you didn't even have to loot anybody.
After a long day of witchering, I just want to sit down and have a drink. But right now I'm feeling like something fruity and refreshing, so I'll have myself a tall glass of Orchardman's refreshing nectar.
For this drink, we are using a bountiful harvest of berries from White Orchard. Now the cookbook calls for some gooseberries, but it's out of season here, but I did find these Indian gooseberries instead. Looks a lot different than Western gooseberries, and upon tasting one, tastes very different too. Unlike Western gooseberries, these have a pretty bitter taste, and I'm not a big fan of bitter drinks, so you know what? I'm not going to be using this. Now, a smart person would just pivot to another recipe, but I already bought the other ingredients, so I'm pushing through. And I'll be using 300 grams of green grapes instead. They kind of look like gooseberries and they're kind of sweet and tart, so I'm hoping it'll be fine. We'll also be using 400 grams of sweet cherries, 300 grams of red currants. Wash them well and remove the stems, stalks, and seeds from all of the berries. Then in a medium saucepan over high heat, add in the fruits, 5 cups of water, and 2 teaspoons of granulated sugar. Bring to a boil, then turn the heat to low and simmer for 5 minutes. Then turn off the heat and add in 2 mint sprigs, but this part is optional. If you are going to do it, let it sit in there for 10 minutes. Then transfer the mixture into a pitcher, have a taste, and if you want it sweeter, you can add some sugar, or if you want some floral sweetness, you can add some elderflower syrup or floral honey, and that's it. Serve chilled or lukewarm, and be sure to include all the fruits. Enough witchering, it's time to eat. Let's try this blood sausage with egg. Wow, I'm really surprised how much I'm enjoying this. I'm usually not the biggest fan of blood sausage or any dishes with cooked blood in it. I usually find them too minerally, but this is delicious. Fried up with the onions and mushrooms with the runny yolk of the egg coating everything. I wish I was able to get traditional Polish Kaszanka though. I wonder what the difference is. Maybe the types of spices used. Either way, I'm really liking this dish. It kind of gives me a similar sensation as eating corned beef hash. I ate this thing for breakfast with bread 2 days straight after this video, and I wish I had more. But I gotta leave some room for these chicken sandwiches. Let's see why these are all the rage, and after tasting it, I can see why. The chicken is intensely savory, and even though I usually overcook my chicken, this one is perfectly cooked. A true sign of a good recipe. I like snacking on the leftover crunchy kale bits too. What I love most is how herby it tastes. The slight earthy nuttiness from the fried kale along with the fragrant marjoram infused marinade and the parsley cream sauce. It's like the sandwich was magically imbued with the flavors of the forest, but in the best possible way. The flavor profiles of this dish makes it feel like a more mature, classy chicken sandwich and makes it so that it doesn't feel out of place in the world of The Witcher. Gonna wash it all down with some nectar. Loving the rich color of this and how the currants just float gracefully in the mixture. Extremely refreshing, not too tart and not too sweet, and the mint complements it very nicely. I really like chewing on the berries at the end. It's kind of like having boba or jelly with your drink. All in all, a pretty good meal, I must say. So, is the Witcher Cookbook any good? With beautiful art, well-staged photos, and authentic tasty recipes, I can tell that this cookbook is made with a lot of thought and a lot of love. If you're a fan of The Witcher and you want to try something outside of your cooking comfort zone, then I highly recommend this book to you.